Good morning. We all well, a lot of us like lists. Some people avoid them like the plague. But one of the things that is common is something that we often refer to as a bucket list, and it can come around in a lot of different forms. Some people keep a physical list of the things they want to accomplish in their life, other people just have a mental list. We're going to be talking about that today, along with some other things. And so put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. I'm Steve Glavin, and this is the show where we come together around our virtual coffee table each week and join the conversation to chat about interesting topics with amazing guests. And if you're joining us for the first time today, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. Before we go any further with our conversations today, I want to bring on my co-host for the day, Chelan Shepherd. I think all of you know Chelan and Bucket Cheech, a Cheech on a mission. What do you have there on your mug today, Chelan?
So I usually do my official Coffee Breaks with Steve mug, but today we're doing All the Hippos Go Berserk, which I think is for bucket lists.
It could
sometimes
be.
we have to go berserking to get through our bucket list.
And maybe reading Sandra Boynton's book, Hippos Go
Also,
Berserk,
maybe
is
that's
on
on your
someone's
bucket
bucket
list,
list.
and if it's not, it should be. It's an excellent book.
It is an excellent book, as so many of Sandra Boynton's works are. If you're not familiar with her, you've probably seen her cartoons and or read some of her books before. But
She has an
hey,
excellent snow, uh,
oh,
holiday
that
snow
video with the
song
music with
video
the
that
harmonies,
so good.
which I have posted on my
Yeah.
personal Facebook, I think just about every winter for the last several winters. I want to say
Mhm.
hello. Thank you for the everybody drink, Chelan. And I don't know if you'll be able to keep that up, but if you can, go ahead. If not, Rick is here. Good morning, Rick. And if you are joining us today, and this is, if you're tuning in live, this is Saturday, September 7th, 2024. If you are joining us live, please do say hello in the chat so that we know that you're here. And if you're tuning in later on and watching this recorded, because we do record Coffee Breaks with Steve, it's available for later viewing on both Facebook and YouTube. Hi, Jerry Thompson. It's good to see you as well. But please let us know that you're here, and please do join the conversation when we get into our topic today. Hey, Chelan, first things first, I want to share some sweet and savory and just talk about some things
Yes,
that have
the
been going on.
charcuterie.
Hi, Kathy Garlic. Hello. Who else did I see? I thought
Mhm.
I saw somebody else pop up here briefly, but we'll say hello as we see them. And you can, are you able to see the chat, Chelan?
I am. It's a Dustin in the back, says Carissa. He is making occasional appearances because coffee is back here for him in our
I got
little
it.
house.
Yeah.
Um,
Kathy
Kathy
Garlic
says
says some shirt.
some
I think it's
shirt.
always good to have some shirts. I mean, I usually use in proper
Oh, I
English
see
grammar,
what
we
she's. I
say
was like, "What's
some
the
shirts.
context?" I'm seeing your shirt now and processing,
Yeah,
and I hear it. It's like
you can hear it.
Zuckerman's famous pig. That's some pig. It's
Some
some
shirt.
shirt. I see that
Yes,
now.
it's always been on my bucket list to wear this shirt during coffee breaks,
Yeah.
so
Have
I'm
you
doing
not
that
worn it
today.
before on coffee breaks?
Not on coffee
You've all
breaks.
been missing out.
Yeah, it's
You're going
definitely
berserk with the
it
hippos,
definitely
and
has
I
its own
approve.
personality. Hey, listen, I want to bring our sweet and savory on here and share a few things going on this week and next. I thought this was just a fun story. The relatively new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of the UK, Sir
Is that
Keir
cat?
Starmer, when he moved into number 10 Downing Street, there's already been a cat living there, and this is Larry the cat. That's who you're seeing in this picture, who was the Downing considered the Downing Street cat, but he lives in the Prime Minister's residence. He doesn't belong to the current Prime Minister. He belongs to the home. And Larry has been there since 2011. He's when he was 4 years old. He's now 17 years old, and
Oh,
he's there as the official Mouser cat.
yeah.
Because, as you can imagine, number 10 Downing Street, though it's the home of the British Prime Minister, is not immune from having its share of
It's
rodents
London, isn't
wandering
it?
around.
In it.
But when Prime Minister Starmer and his family, he's got a fairly young family, and when they moved in, they also brought with them their rescue cat, Jojo, who has now been living there. And they just within this last week, there was a lot of press coverage about the fact that the Starmers have just gotten a Siberian kitten. Apparently, his daughters, Sir Keir's daughters, Prime Minister Starmer's daughters. I'm just going to say it as many different ways. His name as many different
Sure,
ways as I can.
sure.
Sir Prime Minister Keir Starmer daughters wanted to get a dog. They wanted a German Shepherd, and he was just, a German Shepherd in number 10 Downing Street. It's just probably not going to, it may or may not work well. So they went through several weeks of negotiations and finally decided to get this Siberian kitten, which I think they have now picked up. I don't know if they have a name for the new kitten yet, but the idea is that the additional cats in the house. First of all, Larry has to get used to them, but the
Right.
hope among citizens of England and the United Kingdom is that Larry, at age 17, may not be as agile and may not be around that many more years to take care of the mouses, the mice, the
The meese.
mousen that exist around there. And so there's an opportunity for Larry to now mentor and train up couple of cats who might be able to step in and help with that. So there hasn't been a lot yet about how well Larry is doing getting along with the new residents, but I'm sure we'll hear more about that. They said that when, as Prime Minister Starmer was announcing to the press they were bringing in the new kitten, he said that one of the concerns that he has, they wanted to put in a cat door, but the doors, it's difficult to do that because all of the doors in number 10 Downing Street are specially designed as
Armored.
bomb proof. And so putting
Yeah.
in a cat door is not straightforward. But he said his daughter reminded him that it's just, they already brought in Jojo, their cat that they've already owned, and he says just as easy to do that for two cats as for one. So he said, I'm sure we'll find a way to overcome it.
I
Carla's on here.
appreciate
Hi, Carla.
I appreciate that in a house of government, there's a plan of succession for the mousing.
Well, as there should be, and I don't know
As
if
there
that's
should be.
something, is that like the selection of or election of a prime minister? Is that going to come out of the Houses of
Designated
Parliament?
survivors, right? So many things to
By the
consider
way,
here.
when
And if there isn't a process, a standard operating procedure, there should be.
they need to come up with one, that's for certain. And by
Mhm.
the way, Jojo and this new kitten are not the first four-legged residents of number 10 Downing Street. Other prime ministers have brought in their own fur family members, dogs, cats, and heaven alone knows what else may have lived there at various times.
Heaven
But
alone.
heaven alone. But yes, it's this next one is not, as much a happy thing, but it was in the news. I posted some things about this last week, and it was just something that hit home personally. There's a restaurant outside of Coeur d'Alene, which is not that far from where we live in Spokane, right across the border, and you get into Coeur d'Alene pretty shortly. And vertically challengedly, Chelan.
Thank you.
Chelan doesn't like it when we use that other word. The Wolf Lodge Inn, which is this amazing steakhouse. The building itself was built in the 1920s, and by the 1930s, it was used for hunters and miners who came through the area. It was sort of a supply store and that type of thing, and then eventually was converted to a restaurant. We started coming to Wolf Lodge when we would visit family in Spokane in the 1980s, and it has been a place that has always been a favorite for our family, someplace we go for special occasions, something that we would introduce our kids to when they reached a certain age, and plan to introduce our grandkids to as they reached a certain age as well. And last week there was a fire there. It's an old building and mostly wood, and so not surprisingly, but very tragically, it burned to nothing but a pile of rubble. So we're hopeful that they will rebuild it. But that was just something that's certainly not the sweet, it's the savory. And right now, I don't even think the steaks they make. By the way, part of the reason we've continued to go back there is some of, if not the best steaks we've ever eaten at Wolf Lodge. But just to picture one of the last times we were there, not this last summer, but the summer before, our friends Scott and Jody were in town, and we wanted to introduce them to Wolf Lodge. And it's a picture we took, a selfie, or an ussie, as they say in some places, that we took at the Wolf Lodge Inn. So we're feeling a bit of sadness about that, but hopefully they will rebuild. I don't know if rebuilding is going to be the same. There was a certain eclectic atmosphere about the original Wolf Lodge, so we'll see what they're able to do. But that was something that did hit close to home.
And it's not the same as the Wolf Lodge Water Park. It is different.
It's not the same.
This
No,
came
people
first.
see Wolf Lodge, and there are other places called Wolf Lodge. There's a water park. There are other restaurants called Wolf Park. Sorry, I accidentally turned off my little mug warmer here. I don't want my coffee to go cold.
Yeah, I have hot.
I have to do that. But I do, with a couple of birthdays that we wanted to mention this week as well. Chelan, first of all, today there's a birthday. John Harris is celebrating his birthday today. And so we want to wish a happy birthday to John. Isn't that a
happy
great
birthday,
picture?
John.
Happy birthday, John. And then tomorrow on September 8th, this, by the way, John is your cousin Kirsten's husband. So he's your
husband,
cousin-in-law, right? That would be the correct, my nephew-in-law.
We're cousins.
And we're cousins, and John's just a great guy. But also tomorrow, my cousin's birthday, Brenda Durnell, is celebrating a birthday tomorrow, and so a happy birthday to Brenda as well.
That's a cute picture too.
And also, if you have, isn't that she's just an adorable person?
She's one of those people. She's just cute.
just
She'll try.
plain
She's
cute.
cute.
Um, do any of you out there have a special day this week that we missed? And if we missed it, that's probably Chelan's fault. But if we missed your special day, whether it's a birthday, an anniversary, maybe something special that you or a close family member is celebrating this week, we want to celebrate with you. And so let us know in the chat right now what that is and what we should be celebrating. And if you've got something coming up in the month of September that you would like us, or maybe even beyond, right, Chelan? I mean, people can let us know by
Yeah.
email if they got a special day coming up anytime
Tell
in the
us
next few
everything.
months. Tell
We
us,
want to
tell us your
know.
life
If
story.
it's
We'd like your
classified,
social security numbers
we're still interested.
and your credit card numbers. That's nice
Yeah.
too.
It's
No,
nice
don't
to
do that.
share among
Don't do
friends.
that. But yeah, let us know, and you can email us with any of your future celebration events so that we can get them on our calendar by sending an email to cbwsteve@comcast.net. We will get that email. We even check the junk and spam folders to make sure that we're not missing something important. Okay, so let us know about those. All right, Chelan, listen, I want to get to our topic today, and I would like to make sure that everybody in the chat is aware that we want to hear from you as well.
Yes.
Remember, this is our virtual coffee table. Chelan and I are not the only ones sitting around the virtual coffee. What are you drinking this morning, by the way? Because I do have coffee.
I'm having my London Fog.
Okay, and I see that you switched mugs.
What are you talking
about? You switched cups.
What? With my almond coconut milk sweetened with monk fruit. But that wasn't enough, so we added honey.
Okay.
It's
That's
like you're
good.
fancy and you're kind of bland. So we added some honey.
We had to do some things with it.
Husband Dustin added honey.
So Chelan, we're going to talk today about bucket lists. And that's a term that I don't know how long it's been around or where it originated.
I looked this up. I looked this up in preparation for today.
Okay. And so what do you know?
You're not going to believe this is the thing. This is like a Mandela effect thing. At least it was for me.
All right.
Bucket list apparently was not coined until the movie The Bucket List in 2007. That does not compute. I swear I've talked about bucket lists my entire life.
I think that it has to be like a Mandela effect thing.
Look it up because every source was saying, yes, kick the bucket has been a thing around since I think the 1600s, but a bucket list apparently not till 2007.
So only
Explain
like for about 15 or so years.
Mm-hmm.
That term, that doesn't make sense to me either. So that's crazy. I mean, I believe it. I do believe it if that's the case.
I don't know if I do.
I don't know if I do either. I mean, I'm going to say until we find a legitimate, verifiable source that says otherwise.
But audience, go look it up because I wish I was joking.
Now, Bucket List was a movie was that Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson?
And Jack, yeah. It's Morgan and Jack.
And it was like they both, one or both of them find out that they're terminally ill and decide that there is this list of things they want to accomplish
before they kick the bucket.
They die, before they kick the bucket. And that's where the term originally came from, which is kind of a dark term. But people now use that not necessarily to talk about. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily, okay, I know that I have a limited amount of time remaining on this earth, and so before I kick the bucket, these are the things I need to accomplish in X amount of time. I know for me, I have, and some people have a mental list of things. I actually have a list that I refer to as my bucket list that are things that I want, and I don't think of it in terms of I need to fulfill these before I die. But fulfill is part of my thought process. Is like, here's some things I would like to accomplish. We're going to talk in a few minutes about what some experts say about the potential downsides of a bucket list in terms of, you can end up feeling disappointed or you can end up feeling like a massive loser. But anyway, we'll get into that in a few minutes. And I'm curious out there about, from our viewers, from our friends out here who are watching and participating in the chat, do you have a bucket list, whether written or just a mental list? How do you think of it, and what are some of the things on your bucket list? Chelan, do you have a bucket list?
I do. I made one for today.
Oh, did you?
I did because I mean, we've got things, but do I actually have a list? I mean, some things that I think are on my bucket list, I've actually accomplished, which is really nice to see. Like the thing I kind of looked up other people's bucket lists and things like visiting certain places. I mean, getting to go to Europe was a big one. Getting married to that Dustin over there was a big one. And I was like, God, if it's not Dustin, who is it? Because I'm sitting here waiting. That was a big one. Um, so I've gotten to do a lot of my bucket list things, but I did create one. I was hoping you could guess some of them today.
What you
They're
have
not in order.
covers? You have covers over them.
I
Is
do.
that what
I
I'm
do.
seeing?
They're
You have
not in
like
order. They are
post-it notes.
numbered,
You
but
know, it's
it's not
interesting
in
because we're
normal
going to talk
order.
in a minute about different ways you can create the bucket list and some
Yeah,
of the creative designs and stuff. So what you're doing there was a kind of a reminder to me that okay,
I am Vanna
um,
White.
and these are I'm guessing the ones that you have not yet that you maybe
Correct.
have
None
not
of
yet
these are
accomplished.
ones I've accomplished. Some of
Okay.
them I feel like feed into each other.
Sure. Well, for instance, I'm guessing would being in a full length feature film that's actually out in theaters as a and promoted like an A-list type of film, is that on there?
I thought of it, but I mean, I feel like the one I was in
Already
kind of
fulfilled that
started
to
that.
some
So I
degree.
don't have that one on my yeah.
By the way, if people aren't aware, Chelan has been she's
Every time
done
I'm
a
on here. Can I
yeah,
plug the
we talked
movie I
about it.
was
Can we
in?
plug the movie? But it's an independent film that
Mhm.
was made by a filmmaker by the name of who wrote and produced the film, Rick Castaneda. In fact,
Mhm.
Rick has been on the show to talk
He
about
has.
the movie, and we're looking at bringing Rick back to talk about some of his new
Excellent.
projects. But the movie was called All Sorts, and you can find it, I think, on Amazon Prime. And
Mhm.
Chelan has a featured role in that. So, okay, that one's not on there.
It's not on there.
How about appearing on a Broadway stage?
Yeah, that one is that's here. On Broadway. You can't see it, but I did
All right,
write it
I'm going
down.
to trust you. Yeah, okay. Perform in
Perform
a show on Broadway.
in a show
Okay.
on Broadway.
Um,
'Cause you
how
could
about
go
is
on a stage for a tour, and I'm like, "That's not
yeah,
quite it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wanna
yeah.
be in a show."
Okay. How about skydiving? Is skydiving on there? Because I know you and I have
Mm,
talked about it.
we have. I thought about it, go fish, because I don't know if I get to if my ears
You
unless
have
I can
inner
fix
ear
my
problems
ears.
that cause problems when
I
like you go up in
cannot
an
go
airplane.
skydiving because of my excessive ear problems.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right now at least. But
right
who knows?
now,
Maybe a solution will come up about that.
present itself.
How
Let's just
about
remove my ear canals.
this one might be an either or, but I know we talked about this when we were in Las Vegas. There was jumping off the stratosphere, which is like a vertical zip line bungee jump. But what about bungee jumping or that type of
It
thing?
is. I wanna do a big old bungee jump. I feel like my ears could handle it, and because I'm afraid of it, I wanna do it.
That might be a good lead into doing the skydiving. I'm going to guess a couple more, and then I want you to just share
Yeah,
what's on your list.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of traveling locations that maybe you haven't gone to. Would you ever want to go to Croatia? Was that on your list?
It
Where
wasn't
my
that one
dad's from,
wasn't
your grandfather.
specifically on my list, but yes, it is that it truly is a bucket list thing, I just didn't think of it for this list.
Okay, how about going to back to Edinburgh for the Royal Tattoo?
Oh, no, for the Fringe Festival, I would go for the
Oh,
Fringe
Fringe
Festival, not
Festival. Yeah,
necessarily for
we've
the
talked
Royal
about that.
Tattoo. Um,
Um,
that one should have been on the list, it wasn't on the list.
I'm going to try to think of at least one more that's like a travel location for you. And I'm just trying to, Kathy, my sister Kathy, who just we all went to Croatia earlier this year. She says, "Go to Croatia, Glenn."
Hmm,
Um, and I see. Oh, Carissa asked one. She said, "What about an African safari? Is that on there?"
yeah, that's the
Okay,
one, that's the major travel one for me is I
nice.
have never been to
Yeah,
Africa, and I wanna
yeah,
see all of these animals in their habitat, so
yeah,
I'd love to do that.
including yourself.
Include yeah,
So all right, why don't you
my
share with us?
natural
And
habitat.
again, I'm going to ask if people if oh and I think this was a Carissa one too. Attending the Academy Awards, I should have guessed
Yeah,
that one
so
because I'm
I
almost
right.
positive.
So what I went to was nominated for Academy Award, assuming that if I'm nominated, I get to go.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah,
Okay.
I almost put both of them on there. Um, I wanna be nominated, but I don't wanna win. But
Yeah.
I
I
didn't get that
because you've
specific.
seen. Yeah. Um.
It gets wonky once
Oh,
you win.
by the way, hello, Michelle Elliott. I see Michelle Marie Elliott is on here,
Hello.
and by the way, I'll just put out another plug. If you have joined our conversation, Please let us know in the chat. Say hello, participate in the conversation. We want to know that you're
Mhm.
here, but we also would love to have you participate in the chat. Michelle says Ireland, Germany, Japan, and Maldives. Those are all great places to visit. What are some
And
of
I've
yours?
only
And
been
then
to
I'd like you to
Germany,
guess some
and
of
only
mine.
briefly.
And then we're
Yeah,
going to talk a little bit
yeah.
about other
So mine,
bucket list
I'll just
things.
go through them kind of quick. Be able to live in London, England, and or New York, New York.
Okay.
Paragliding is on there, which
Oh,
was the picture you had up for today. So I
yeah,
wondered
yeah.
if you'd land on that.
No, I was,
Being
I chose a
able
picture.
being able to
Wait,
live
move it.
oh wait, wrong one.
There we
Live
go.
off of my acting salary, to not have to
Okay,
do
not have to have
a
a
day job.
non-acting job.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And when you say
which is
day
difficult
jobs,
to
because
do.
a lot of when you're acting, a lot of the stuff you're either filming or
Is
performing on
night.
stages at night. Yeah.
That's true. I would love on to get to a point where half of my salary
Hmm.
I get to donate, and I just get to live
I
off half my
love that.
salary.
I love that. Become a
That's been a goal
philanthropist
for a
in
while.
one way or another. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to you brought this up too. I would love to become a meme. I want to be a
Not a
meme.
mime. That wasn't a mime.
Not a
That's a
mime,
meme.
although that could be fun for a while, but I want
Yeah.
to be a meme. I wanna be like, the
Hi,
response
Dustin.
face that you have. Hi, Dustin. I wanna be the response face that you have when somebody does something, and then it's like, "Well, I gotta give the cheech face for that." I wanna do that. And then I
Okay.
want to, of course, write a novel.
Okay. Uh huh.
Um, what
I know the
I
tablet
want
did
to
my request.
be debt-free, which is the really something we're
That's,
aiming
I
towards right
like that
now.
one. I like that one. I like some of the bucket list items that are not about doing some extreme sport type of thing or something
The way
really
you wanna
extraordinary,
live.
but they are things that have to do with some life goals. And I think
Yeah.
that's a great thing to include.
I think I want to be it was between this and SNL, but I think I'd have more fun as a guest on The Tonight Show.
Tonight, you're being interviewed by Jimmy Fallon or
Yeah,
whoever's going to
Jimmy
host by that
Fallon,
point.
if I could be interviewed by Jimmy Fallon
That'd be
or do
great.
Goats on a Boat. I mean, like oh,
Hmm.
Dustin said this one, I went, "Yeah, that is actually a dream. I wanna live in a hobbit hole for as long
That would
as I
be
wanna
cool. Go
live
to
there."
like in New Zealand or
I don't
just
wanna
anywhere.
visit it. I
Uh
want
huh.
to make my own and live in
And
a
live
hobbit
there.
hole,
Okay.
a
All right.
custom hobbit hole in the ground.
Got a
Um
couple more. Let's hear them.
I wanna be physically flexible, which is not a thing that I am.
Me either.
A downward facing dog in yoga is one of the easy I can't, but I would
Listen,
love
I
to.
can't sit. I've my entire life I've not been able to sit like on the floor crisscross. My hips,
Cross-legged,
I
I
can't.
can,
My
but
hips. I have a. I don't even
your
know
hips
what you
don't
call
lie.
it, but my hips do not want to bend that way. I can't
Yeah,
even put like one foot over. Well, I can on one side, but not the other.
show us,
Like
prove
over
it.
my thighs.
Uh,
Sit-
and the last thing I thought of is
yeah.
I want to make a giant photorealistic embroidery portrait, and I'd love to be able to sell it. So, that's over here.
Nice, nice.
To
I'm gonna
feel like
have you
I'm a
guess just a
true
few of
artist.
mine. I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
guess some of mine or just Rick asks a valid question. We're gonna talk a little bit
Huh,
about bucket lists because some people have things on their bucket list that are like, I want to go to Mars,
right.
or
I did do
things that
things I thought were achievable,
yeah,
sort of.
and there's wish lists, and the thing is, sometimes those can be interchangeable. We've kind of talked about that. Is that
Right.
bucket list? People give a term, but it can be here's my wish list, and it can be very achievable things that you can accomplish. And some people will talk in a couple of minutes about even different ways to create and have a bucket list, but that are a little more focused. And but are
Mhm.
there any that you want to guess on mine, or just want me to list some of mine? Because I have a
Um,
pretty long list.
it was. I'm
Mine's in an
guessing
actual
okay, so
document.
a few, I know I would think I don't know if you have this on there, but I want this for you to be able to go to space. Even if
Do
it
I
was like
have
a
that?
space hotel
Yeah.
that just
Um, I mean, that's certainly. I think mine are things that I figure I could, in fact,
I mean, they're
have happened. But
opening a space hotel.
yeah, I mean that's definitely I considered having that on my bucket
Yeah,
list. And certainly if the opportunity ever arose, if I was contacted because of my tremendous fame ah we'll get back to that one in a minute, Carissa. Yes, Band of Brothers tour, we'll talk about that. But because yes, that is on my list. But if I was ever for instance, SpaceX or somebody ever reached out and said, because
Right.
of your tremendous fame doing coffee breaks, we would love to have you go up in the SpaceX capsule so that your viewers will know all about it because of the excessive exposure that
Fame.
coffee breaks
The
have. I
excessive
would do
fame.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not currently on my
Um,
list.
uh,
Carissa hit one. She said Band of Brothers tour. And in case
yeah.
people don't know, there is a book and a series that was done some 25 years ago on HBO called Band of Brothers. It's a mini series about members of the 506th Parachute Division of the 101st Airborne, parachuted into Normandy behind enemy lines for D-Day, and then stayed in throughout parts of Europe and were among the key fighting forces through the remainder of the
Great
European
series.
portion of the war. And
Great
there are tours
series.
you can take that visit the sites.
Yeah.
So yes, that's on there. What else?
Um, Conducting the orchestra, the Boston Pops.
It wouldn't necessarily have to be the Boston Pops, but I do have on there that I would love at some point to be able to conduct either Stars and Stripes Forever with a band or
Right.
orchestra, and or the 1812 Overture.
I think you should
Um,
aim higher. I think it should be Boston Pops.
well, I can get in touch with Keith Lockhart and see if he's got an opening
Ask.
for me. What else?
Um, and then the other one I had for you was to watch one of the rockets launch from NASA.
It wouldn't even have, yeah, it could be, there are a variety of launch points now. I mean, Vandenberg Air Base in California is a launch site, and there are others. A lot of them still launch from the Kennedy Space Center. I want to visit the Kennedy Space Center. I've never been able to do that, but I would love to see an actual launch of a rocket. Yes.
Do you want to go on safari?
Yes. That's
Okay.
that's one of mine. Safari in
Bingo. And
Africa.
do you want to be in a movie
Um,
or go to the
I don't
Academy Awards?
I
Those are the
have
two
on here
others.
attend the Tony Awards in New
Oh,
York, but
oh
the
yeah.
Academy Awards, that could easily kind of be a go along, a slash with that. I'll just tell you a few others
Yeah.
again for the sake of time. Um, I do have Ride as a Passenger into Space. I didn't think I had it actually on my list. It's there. You
I
were
know
right.
you better than you know
Yeah,
yourself.
ride in a blimp. That's been since childhood when
Blimp,
you
the
would see the
blimp, the
Goodyear blimp.
goodie.
I've always wanted to ride in the blimp. You have to be
I
like
knew that one.
someone with a press pass or be specially invited. Kind of
Eat
like
at Club
going up.
33.
Another one, Eat at Club 33 is not on my list, but it should be.
It
That's
should have been on
the
mine too.
exclusive restaurant at Disneyland that you have to have a
Yep.
membership or be invited by a member. I do have on there to ride in the back seat with with either the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds. Again, those members of the press are invited to do that before air shows. Um, go tornado chasing with professional tornado chasers.
I would do that with you.
Attend the Indy 500 in person. I have a few. I do have attending the Royal Tattoo in Edinburgh.
It's Royal Tattoo, of course.
Yeah, meet a U.S. president, see the Northern
Mm.
Lights. So I've got a
Northern
few
Lights.
things.
You and I both missed them.
I know, I know. But anyway, I've got a lot more on my list, and there are several that I've already checked off, including skydiving. I got to do that last fall, a tandem skydive when I was with
Yeah.
Saver 6 Foundation in California. But again, folks, if you're tuning, yes, a White House tour. I have not
Ooh.
been able to do that. We've looked it up. A couple of our visits to DC and either couldn't get it scheduled or for security reasons they were canceling them. Just looking at some of the others, these are some great ones. Put more of yours up there if you're watching today. And again, if you are watching, even if you don't have a bucket list item you want to share, although I hope you will, just say hi. Let us know that you're here. All right, I want to share a few things because we were talking about, some questions have come up, and we were talking about different ways that you can do a bucket list, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because you can actually find a bunch of resources online, and I'm going to share some things in the chat. Now, I will put the disclaimer that Coffee Breaks with Steve does not specifically endorse or sponsor any particular
We
websites
would
that
never.
share information about bucket lists or any other topic. We just these are examples of some that you can go to that give some resources and give some ideas about bucket lists. And so you can check these out or do your own, but you can actually find, I mean, you don't need to go get a pre-printed sheet to do your bucket list. It's just you're making a list and then checking things off if you want to. That's one of the things that you can do. You can even go online and get journals that are specifically devoted to bucket lists again. So it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of a sales gimmick, but they
Right.
do have these journals are sort of highlighted. They have very specific pages. What are your bucket list items, and how do you think you're going to go about it, and how do you plan for them, and when you fulfill them, you kind of journal about it, and you can include stickers and pictures. And in fact, that's kind of a cool idea, that you can make it
Right.
artistic. You can even create family bucket lists. Families will get together, the parents and the kids, and say, what are some things as a family we want to accomplish together? And this is just, I'm not enlarging this.
That's
You're not going to
fun.
see everything, but you can go online and find different examples of these types of things, which, again, you don't have to purchase a list, but you can find ideas and go, oh, yeah, that'd be a great one. And couples as well, whether already married or planning for their marriage. Some of them included things like meet each other's families, which obviously you would presume at least was partially accomplished by the time you got married or at the wedding, but maybe not. Maybe family members that live in remote places who couldn't attend or you couldn't get to initially. Some people will also create bucket lists. And again, Rick asked the question, is bucket list or a wish list? Well, sometimes it's just ideas of things we want to do during a particular season or time of year, or this year we want to do this year. People will say, well, isn't that your New Year's resolution? Not necessarily, because think about like some examples of what's on here. And this one again is an example of something for a family that you could do. And it's just things that kind of create opportunities for little adventures or activities together, whether you call it a bucket list or just, our list of fun things to do. The name is less important than the process. And then here's an example of doing something artistic, that where you can create little pictures, you can get stickers, or you can,
Don't
if you're
kill
doing
a
it on the
plant for
computer,
6
you can
months.
create
That is a
little,
goal.
yeah, there you go. So just some ideas about that. And then here's just, again, you can go on places like Reddit or other sites, and you will see what people are coming up with. Even things like, I like the one down in the lower left corner where it's a little miniature bucket and the laundry clips that are on there, each with marker, have on them a bucket list item. So as you complete them, as you accomplish them, you take the little clip off and drop it in the bucket, and
I
as
like
you've
that.
accomplished it. So
That's
I
really
just
cute.
thought some of those were great ideas. There are a couple of other things I want to talk about here briefly, Chelan. One is that there are some experts, psychologists and sociologists and other ologists, who actually kind of will give a case against having bucket lists. And I think a lot of this depends on the individual and how they view the bucket list. Like, I got things on there.
Yeah.
I don't expect I'm necessarily going to achieve or accomplish or fulfill everything on that list. It's not a all or none. It's not a do or die again, kicking the bucket.
Right.
But there are psychologists and others who will say that trying to fulfill a bucket list may be a recipe for feeling like you're a failure, feeling unaccomplished because you didn't get to all of them. I'm just sharing, and again, we're
Yeah.
not promoting the idea or this particularly, but this was an article by a psychologist in Psychology Today sometime back. I don't remember exactly when this was published. May have been a number of years ago, but the idea exists. And it's like kind of the case against bucket lists, why you may not want to.
Right.
And so it's worth considering, because some people it could be an obsessive compulsive thing or some
Right.
other driving force that says, if I don't accomplish this, then I'm
I fail.
unaccomplished. I
Yeah.
failed. And, yeah, you don't want to set yourself up for failure.
And yeah,
Um,
I think that that could be said of any goal. Really
exactly.
briefly, my thought is, and it depends on how, I think it depends a lot on how your brain works and how you operate in the world, because I don't know if it's a personality thing or an ADHD thing, but I find if I make completely unrealistic perfection goals that I can't reach, but I'm gonna try anyway, I'm still really happy with where I
Yeah.
landed. Because
Yeah.
if I just make my goal the bare minimum and then I don't hit that, reaching my goals is tough. So if I overshoot it, I will definitely reach the minimum and maybe a little over that. I
Well,
find that works better
yeah.
for me.
And the other part of it is I have another part of my list that, in addition to checking off the things, it's also what are some things that I have done that weren't on my bucket list, or things that happened around me or to me. Like, for instance, some
Right.
years ago, I was driving in the morning, I was driving someplace, and as I was driving up the street, it was a clear morning. I actually saw a meteor in broad daylight go across the sky and break up. And I thought, what did I just see? Well, later that morning, it was on the news that a meteor had entered the atmosphere, and it actually, parts of it had hit the ground someplace in, like, we were in
Oh my
California at the
goodness.
time, in Nevada, in the Nevada mountains. And I saw a meteor in broad daylight. That was never on my bucket list. And yet I put it on there as one of those life moments that's like, that's cool.
That's a once
Um,
in a lifetime, yeah.
and
When
Kathy's
you're
point,
dead,
I love
you won't
this.
care.
When you're dead, I don't think you'll care too much about whether you fulfilled your list. I agree. And I think that's one of the
The
key points when we
stress
talk
around
about
it.
bucket lists. This is not a have to do, or that we're even encouraging that everybody out there should create a bucket list. It's just, it's a curiosity, right? It's an interesting, and it can be an icebreaker, or a conversation starter in some situations, and it is fun. That's why
Yeah.
um, I'm asking people who are on here, share some of the things on your
Yeah.
bucket list, because it can be interesting, and it's like any other sharing stories. One of the big things we talk about on Coffee Breaks is when we share our stories, when we share things about ourselves, it becomes something that connects us with, oh, that's on my list too. Oh, I didn't know that about you. Tell me more. And so sometimes it's just great to have the conversation and to
Yeah.
find out interesting things. Like, I assume, Carla, when you're saying no way, that's a bucket list item now, were you talking about my seeing the meteor in broad daylight? Because again, if you didn't know about that, um, about
Wouldn't even know
me,
it's an option.
and again, it wasn't something I did, it was something
No,
I happened to see.
experienced,
It's
yeah.
an experience. So yeah, the
Yeah.
last thing I want to mention here, for the sake of time, I just want to hit this, is there's another thing that some people talk about. They call it a reverse or negative bucket list, which doesn't mean it's a negative thing, but it's, some people have the list of things they never want to do. For instance, you have bungee jumping. I never want to go. There is no way. I see bungee jumping, I go, there's no way. Or
Yeah.
people who go, like, climbing up, the side of a mountain or a cliff. I have a height thing. I have a thing. The thing is a problem, is acrophobia. I
Yeah.
and I get vertigo, which is, people say, well, how the heck did you go skydiving? I know it's all in your head anyway. I understand that my thing with heights is in my head. But there was something about, I knew before I ever went skydiving that it probably wouldn't bother me. The spatial relationship with the ground, when you're starting going up to and getting out of the airplane at 12,000 feet, it's the height becomes irrelevant. It's not height, then it's altitude. And I don't have a problem being in an airplane. I don't have a problem usually being in an enclosed compartment of some kind when I'm up high. That's not always true, but usually true. But I can't do Ferris wheels where I'm just sitting in a seat that's rocking a bit and it's open, or my feet are dangling. Ski lifts, can't do that. But there are certain things that people will say that are on their never want to do. I never want to hold a live spider. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Go to a
It's
nature
not
center
on
where
the
they say, "Do you
list.
want to hold this? Do you want to hold this giant huntsman spider?" And
Yeah.
some people say, "Never. It's
I think
never
there
going to
is a
happen."
piece where it's about putting things out there. I love the idea of putting things on your list that push you outside of your comfort zone, that make you shoot for something that makes you your I guess your presence, you're bigger in the
Yeah,
world of like, I'm going to stretch outside my normal boundaries.
yeah.
And it is okay to have boundaries that said, don't want to go there.
Don't want to go there.
Don't
But
want
again, this is a topic. I mean, we could spend a lot of time talking about all these different aspects. And once again, we're not advocating for bucket lists. We're not advocating for any specific way to approach it. We're just saying it is a fun topic, and it is a fun conversation starter. It's fun. I didn't know some of the things that were on your list, Chelan, and there'd be things on mine that might catch you by surprise, although I talk about mine a lot more. Um, yeah. But listen, we are going to have to close things out here in the next handful of minutes. So I do want to share some things that are coming up in the next few weeks. Last few times we've been on the air, I've mentioned 1 or 2 weeks out, and I said we're working on some other things. We're just trying to get things scheduled. We've gotten a lot more scheduled in the last couple of weeks. And so I do want to mention some things that will be happening. Next week, we're going to have an amazing guy named Joel Herman. Joel is a U.S. Army veteran who served in overseas in Afghanistan and a variety of other countries. He's got some stories to tell about his experience in the Army, but he is also a long distance runner. And I would even call him, I think, an ultra marathoner. I
Ultra.
don't know
I'm so
specifically.
excited for this
Yeah,
one.
but just Joel is just an interesting guy. He's got some great stories, so we're going to hear from him. And then a couple of weeks out, we've got a lady named Cindy Kosmala. She is a Michelin trained pastry chef who lives and works in England. And we've already recorded the conversation. She's a fun and interesting person, and she's going to talk about her experiences. She's going to share some things that she bakes on a regular basis that will make your mouth water just to hear her talking about them. But Cindy will be on here to just kind of share overall her experience as a baker and how she went about starting her own business, because she owns and runs a bakery in a town called Burford, England. And then on the 28th, we talked several months ago. We had Jenny Conley on here, who wrote, along with her dad, an original play, a musical called Fiona in the Middle. And I have been involved in working with Jenny and several other people on getting this show ready to present. And we're going to be presenting it the first week in October. And so the week before that, you're going to meet the cast of Fiona in the Middle, and we're going to talk a little bit about the show that'll be coming up a week later, and cast members talking about what has inspired them, what has motivated them, what compelled them to want to be a part of this brand new show. And then in October 5th, a musician by the name of Kenny Snyder, who some of you know, is going to be on here to talk about his background and his work as a musician. He's a man of very, very strong faith in God, and he's going to talk about his rise as a musician, the years of learning music, and he's a composer and arranger as well, and just talk about this God-given talent that he has, and why music is an important part of
He
his
hasn't
life and
aged at
destiny.
all, by the way. That's really rude.
Yeah, that's a relatively recent picture of Kenny, and he still is looking pretty good. And then on September 21st, a poet by the name of Virginia Blasio is going to be on here. She is a published poet, and she is Latina, and so yes, La Poeta, which is Spanish for the poet. And Virginia will be joining us to talk about her work as a poet, what she has published. She's also a speaker. She does speaking engagements and shares some of her poetry in settings. And so we're going to be meeting and speaking with Virginia. And then on October 19th, you see, we're a few weeks out here now. Walter Pratty and Pamela Jacobson, they are actually married. They have two different names professionally, but they are married to each other. And they founded and run a nonprofit organization called Girls Soccer Worldwide, where they not only coach. Walter has a background as a semi-professional soccer player, and they not only coach and train girls here in the United States to play soccer and to hone their skills, they also have a mission in Central or South America. I'll be better on knowing the exact location, where they've worked with some specific villages where the roles of girls and women are really looked down upon. And they've gone down there to not only coach the girls in soccer, but to work within the culture of those villages to try to raise awareness and change some of the perceptions about the roles of the females in the area, and provide better resources, particularly for girls who are growing up and reaching teenage years, to have privacy and to have some sense of their own self.
Person.
And yes, and so we're going to be talking to Walter and Pamela about the work that they do. And then finally, for now, we got more stuff on the horizon. But October 26th, Stacy and Kyle Vandola Evans are going to be on. They actually are involved in organizing and running professional jousting competitions, not exhibition shows, not like you see at place like, and these are great too, but going to like medieval times dinner theaters and stuff where they put on a show that's predetermined. Stacy and Kyle actually organize and run competitions worldwide in various places, particularly around Europe and the UK, where there are teams that come from different countries and compete in jousting tournaments and actually receive prizes for winning in those competitions.
I've never met
So
her, but I can tell we're already friends.
you're going to be
We're
kindred
already,
spirits.
yeah.
So yes, we got a lot of stuff on the horizon, but maybe you have got some topics you would like to see us discuss. Maybe you know someone that you think would be a great guest for the show. These people that we have on here, a lot of them have achieved some level of fame or some level of expertise in their area, and people know who they are, but they're not necessarily like, we're not talking about A-list actors or performers here, but they have great stories, and you're going to hear those stories. If you know people who maybe should be joining us on Coffee Breaks with Steve, you can email us at cbwsteve@comcast.net to share your ideas about shows, share your ideas about topics. And then the last thing I want to just remind people, if you are not already a subscriber to our YouTube channel, would you please consider going out there and becoming a subscriber? And if you are already a subscriber, would you share the YouTube channel as well as this site and our show with other people, because we want to raise awareness. We got great topics. We have some amazing guests coming up. And look, I don't need my 15 minutes of fame, but I do want to make sure that when people come on to join us on Coffee Breaks with Stephen, we're talking about the great work that they're doing, their projects, the things that they're trying to accomplish, that there is an audience out there being introduced to them, excuse me, who will get to know them. Yeah, I want to tell you something, Chelan. Listen to these numbers. We're now in our 6th season of Coffee Breaks with Steve. We've been on the air for 5.5 years, almost 5.5. We've had a total, this is episode number 240. We have had 77 distinct individuals who have joined us as guests. Some have been repeat guests. And so there have been, of the 240 episodes, 111 episodes with guests. That's not a bad track record for an online streaming video podcast show. And I'm not bragging about it. I'm saying we've got a lot, I think, that's special. And by the way, one of the most special things, if not the most special thing about this show, is the fact that we have those of you right now who are engaging with us in the chat, who are joining us around this virtual coffee table. So I want to say thank you to you. And I just, again, want to encourage you to be an active part of this. But beyond that, be an active part of your community. Everybody has a voice. Everybody, I don't know what Chelan's doing. She just went on mute for a minute.
Me out of nowhere.
Oh.
It's rude of them.
But listen,
I'm
Chelan. Yes,
That's
you, me, all of us can have a voice. We have things that we can do. We have ways to change the things around us that we may see that need an impact of some sort. So my encouragement to all of you out there, find a way to make a difference in your world this week. Chelan, thanks for being here. All of you, thanks for being here as well today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being had. And we'll see you next time. God bless you. We'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks with Steve. Take care.